just after 10. Hello, everyone. I will post the link to the website in the chat in case you need it. So it's on the email also. We'll get started at 10:01. Are we recording? Oh, yeah, excellent. Okay. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the last week of the practical R workflow for scientists, specifically NOAA scientists, NOAA fisheries scientists. If you have missed any of the previous weeks, I put the links to the video up on the website. The link is in the chat. And feel free to send me questions too, and I'll try to help you out. And then I'll put the info up on the website. So if you're running into trouble or you're going through things, you're hitting some snags, try going back to the website and looking at the tabs for what you're trying to do, and I'll be updating those when I get questions. So the answer to your question might be there. During the workshop, as usual, put your questions in the chat. I'll get to those as I go along. I'll stop periodically. But also, if anyone in the group knows the answer to the question, by all means, feel free to chime in and put information there in the chat and answer the question. All right, so today the topic is documenting your code with Roxygen. Now, I've been writing packages for a long time and making my own help files in the R package environment, and I wasn't using Roxygen. And as I had said in one of the early workshops, I was going through a period where whenever I met someone who was more experienced than I was, or was just an active, R user, I'd ask them, so, like, what's the one thing, one or two things that have really changed your coding and improved your coding? And Roxygen was mentioned a bunch of times. And so, I've looked into it and I was like, what's the point with that? And then finally I was like, okay, fine. I really need to learn this and do this because other people are using it. So I should at least give it a try. And it's great. Oh, I love it. It's so much easier to document my code now. It saves me so much time. So, and it's really easy too. It's dead easy. It's so much easier than what I was doing before. Unbelievable. So now I'm going to show you basically how to use it. And this is in a package environment. And I want to show you, before I launch into showing you this documentation framework platform, it's actually an R package. I want to show you an example of a different package, because like when you think about R packages, you might be thinking about just like these public, like something you're building for the public. And I also use packages when I'm working on a group. It's it's usually a group project, it's not always, but I'm building something where I need data. Often it's data, maybe some utility functions, and I need them over multiple papers or reports. And so I'm going to show you an example of one of those, just sort of like broaden your thinking about how you can use our packages. So let's go to our studio here. Oops, our studio. Get going here. Okay. I take off our, okay. Let's okay. I'll go there on GitHub then. So this is a package with mainly data for a series of oil sardine papers. And I'm just going to quickly install it. While that's doing that, I'm going to go back here and show you the data. So this has all the data that we're using in the project. And like I said, it's got a few functions, but that's not really the point of this. This is actually mainly a data package. And so the nice thing about this is that we can use the back here. Where is this? We can use the versioning features of it, which I'm not seeing the releases. Oh, okay. Am I not logged in? I am logged in. Okay. So, usually there's something up here that says releases, and it looks like they've changed the platform a little bit. How unfortunate. That's okay. We can go here to the releases, and you can see how I've created these major releases for sort of big times in the development of this project. So I had kind of the first version of the data, and then another version when a paper was submitted. And so we're continuing to work on the data, but now there's this version, so we need to go back to exactly the version that was used for the paper. That's all there, and that's all documented. So that this versioning, the release feature, sorry, not the versioning, the release feature is really nice in that way for documenting your data. The other nice thing is even without the releases, in your description file, you have a version. And when you do your analyses, you can look up the version of the package that's being used and include that in the information for your fit. So there's never any question when you're doing an analysis of what version of the data that you're using. And I don't know about you, but I, over my career, like figuring out exactly what data had gone into an analysis I did, you know, even a week prior, but definitely if it was like a month ago, figuring out that was just a big hassle. And that's not a hassle anymore for me. That's just a part of my workflow because I do it in the packaging because data always has a version. Whenever I update the data, I just update this version here and I update my package. So there's never any question exactly what went into my analyses. All right, okay, so I just want to show you that just so you could see like a different type of package. And now let's go back to here. Get back into our Roxygen. You're going to see our Roxygen in use for that sardine forecast package and see how really helpful it is for documenting your data also. Okay, so what is our Roxygen? So you know when you're in R and you want to access the help, you can just do question mark the name of the function. And up on the side, the help's going to show up. So like if I'm, let's here. Wow. I didn't do that while I. So if I'm over here, I'm at the command line. If I do like LM, and then I have to make my help here a little bigger, but you can see the help file just popped over there, right? So that's standard. We're all familiar with that. This help file is created with something that's called an RD file. It's your sort of the syntax for writing a help file. And our Roxygen will write that file for you with much easier syntax than the normal RD file syntax. So if I go in here and I look in the what I did is I'm just jumping to the man folder, and I'm within the my new package. This is our little test package that we worked on last week. If I look at that man folder, you're going to see this RD file. If you click on that, you can see its syntax there. Doesn't look too bad. This one's really simple, but still remembering all that is a hassle. And then the other thing that's a hassle is that that help file is in a different folder than the function that it's documenting. And it is really, really easy to get these two out of sync. If you only had one function, it wouldn't be so hard. If you've got 30, it's a real pain. And our Roxygen is going to allow you to put the help file information right at the top of your function. Let's close that. Okay. So that's one thing that our Roxygen will do. It'll make those little help files for you. But the other thing that it does, and if you have a larger project, is that it is going to create those RD files. Let's see if this is going to open up for me. Okay, great. Okay, so this is my package, and when you create all those RD files, the R packaging platform will just automatically create this nice manual for you. If you've ever been tasked with having to write a manual for something that you're creating, you know that that is just an incredible amount of work. And this is taking away like 80% of that work. It just creates this nice manual for you. You don't have to do anything, it just does it. Let's go back here. Okay, so that's another thing that it does. Then a third cool thing that it will do is it creates an online index to all your help file here. So if I do this, this is just for the package forecast. And you can see that you've got this online thing that for users, you can go to all the functions. And then again, so it's creating this automatically. And I'll show you this once the sardine forecast loads up. Oh my God, no, please. Otherwise, I didn't have this downloaded. Okay, that's okay. Let's keep. Okay, so that's a nice thing. It creates that online one, and then the last cool thing that those man files can do is the package down program will take those and create a web page for you. So this is the default web page. In this case, it's hosted on GitHub. We saw how you can put use GitHub to host a web page. So this is an example of just the default web page that is created for a package using package down, and it creates this tab here with all the links for your functions. So you can see you can create this online manual with basically no extra work. You just download the package down, R package, as you would any other R package, and run one line of code, and it creates this web page for you. And then you upload it to GitHub to host it. Super easy. All right. Okay. So let's see if okay. So how do you set up your package to use our Roxygen? So first thing what you're going to need to do is install the Roxygen 2 package. You can either do that from our studio. You click on packages, click on install, and then put Roxygen 2 there. Or you can do that just from this code line here. All right. So let me walk you through how you set things up here. Okay, so first thing what you're going to do is you're going to open up our studio, and then you're going to go up to this top corner and make sure you're at your package. So my new package is what we created last week. It's just a template. For those of you who weren't in last week's session, you can create your little template by doing new file, new project, and then it'll give you an option to start a new R package, and it'll create this little template that I'm showing. But we've already created that last week, so I'm just going to select that. Okay, so I have that open, and then the next thing that you need to do is go into Tools, Project Options, then you go to Build Tools, and you see this little check mark here. You're going to check that. By default, it won't be checked, so you need to check that. And then when you check that, the configure window should pop open, but if it doesn't, you just click configure and leave this as it is. That's fine. But you'll need to check this little button, install and restart. And so this is telling our studio when you want to rebuild your man files, your help files. Okay, so click that and then say OK, and that's all you need to do. All right. So that's how you set it up. Install that package and set those project options. And now let me show you what the basic structure of the Roxygen comments that you put at the top of your function look like. So right here is just a format for our Roxygen comments that's going to be good for like 95% of your functions. You're going to have a little title. Oh, back up just a moment. Do you see these, how these are a comment and then the, I don't know what that symbol is called, whatever that's called. That is the symbol for an Roxygen comment. It's not just a hashtag. You've got to put this ampersand or whatever right there. Okay, so the first line is going to be title, and then you have description, then you have details, and then you declare the parameters, You can put examples, see also if you want, references, and then you tell it to export, and then you're going to have your function. The only things that are actually required are the title and the description and declaring any parameters in your function. So that's it. Let's go ahead and do that for our hello world function and see how this works. So we're going to do something really simple. So hello world doesn't have any arguments for the function, so we don't need the @param. All we need is a title and a description, and then we're going to do an example, and we're going to tell it to export. So let's copy that. Now we're going to go back. So let's go to build. Make sure, I'm just going to install and restart, just to make sure everything's working okay. Okay. Does everything work okay? When I click that, it's going to install it for me. So, I mean, it's going to load it for me. So I've got library new package. Let's look here and see the red here, what's going on. So it's just saying it's the first time using it. And it's got this warning that we have a namespace file already. And so it's not going to generate one for us and overwrite the one we have. That's fine. We're going to fix that in a moment. It's not really a problem. It's just letting us know that we have one there. The reason we have one there is when I first set up this demo or template package, I didn't check the option to use our Roxygen, so it created a namespace for us instead of having our Roxygen created. All right, so let's go and let's add those comments to here. Okay, so we're going to go to hello. And you can see that our studio and its template, it added some comments at the top. We're going to get rid of those. Those are not our Roxygen comments. You can tell it doesn't have the little ampersand, not ampersand, the little check there. Okay. So we're going to copy. Oops. There we go. That's it. And I saved it. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go back to the man, and I'm going to get rid of the one that's there because this one was created in the template. Well, actually, I'm going to build the package. You're going to see that our Roxygen is going to complain. So remember, I said when I first set this up, I didn't have it checked to use our Roxygen, and when our studio created the template, it made this manual. Sort of manually made an RD file. Well, by manual, I mean it's not automatically generated by our Roxygen. It was a file that our studio put there. And you can see up here that our Roxygen is complaining. It's saying, oh, there's already a man file there. I didn't create it. And so I'm not going to make a new RD file, a new help file for you using these comments. So we're going to have to get rid of this. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Yes. Okay. Now let's go again. There we go. And you see, it showed up. Great. And now, if I do question mark hello, there we go. My help file showed up. So this is what I wrote. I just put in there, print a class like that. No arguments. I had my example. And then we can do, hello, just hello world. So it's that easy to create documentation. Let's let me show an example using our other function, and I'm just going to create that documentation on the fly. I'm going to copy the top of hello world. I'm going to go over to my little function, which is my forecasting function. So I didn't have any information here. So when you are working in this comment area, it will helpfully add these here every time you hit a return. So see how it keeps adding them on the side, so you don't have to keep putting that in. That's extremely helpful. Okay, so this one I have to give it a title. What does it do? It make a REMA forecast. Okay, the title should be fairly short. Get rid of that. And this function takes a vector or a T time series of data, fits a REMA function. And plots the data. Okay. Now this function has two arguments, data and in years, and so I need to define what those are. So I say param, and then so this is data, and so that's the format there. This is a vector of time series of data. Must be a vector or a PS object. So this is one of the most useful things for documenting your own functions. I use this for my own work all the time, where I create a function and I don't remember precisely what the parameters, what the function arguments are supposed to be. So writing this, as I'm working, and so then I can look with the help file, I can look up, oh, right, that's what that is. So you could just leave this blank, but even if I'm writing a function that's purely for myself, it's not for anyone else, I'm going to put a bit of information here so that I don't get lost later when I come back to this function. So this is also, sometimes I'll use argument names that are not very helpful to me. And I'll look back later and I'm like, what is this supposed to be? So number of years forecast, and then must be examples, and then I'll put a little example here, which is little forecast. So that was it. And then I do install and restart. And now when I do little forecast, that shows up. So like I said, it's that easy. You can also do package equals my new package, and so now it shows me all the help files that I have. Okay, great. Any questions about that part? Will I show the vignette function in the build tools? Yeah, at the end, I think I can, yeah, I can show that at the end. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Ah, darn it. Okay, my sardine forecast is not installing for some reason. I don't want to, it's probably that it's missing some function. I mean, sorry, it's missing some packages. Okay, does anyone know the syntax for generate a hyperlink to another package? Yeah, okay, so it's very easy. So, okay, so first off, let me tell you a couple ways to learn the Roxygen syntax. So, so first thing is that that our Roxygen syntax is going to be at the top of other people's functions. So a good way is to look at the source code from another package. The other good way to get information for things like that is to go to the vignettes in the Roxygen 2 package. And where, okay, yes. So if you do browse vignettes package Roxygen 2, it's going to open up a link to the vignettes. And that documentation is really good. It's going to show you how to do that link. But I will also just point that right here, how that looks. So if you are doing a link to your own package functions, it's just this. So let's say in my new package, if I wanted to have a link to hello in the little forecast package, it's just like that, slash link hello. So let's see an example of that, see how that works. Right. So if I go here, I could say this is different than link. Save, install. install and restart. Okay. I am going to session restart. Because I was monkeying around with trying to get the sardine forecast to load, I think I messed something up, but that's okay. I'm just gonna restart R. Hopefully that R works fine. All works fine. Let's go back here. Oh, okay. Okay, I am going to, for some reason, as I said, when I was updating the sardine forecast, I've now made it, may have to restart R Studio. Okay, I'm going to answer this question while this is doing this. For package versions, do you update the version number after every commit or only after specific milestones? So I do it after minor milestones, not big milestones. Okay, so if I just was like fixing a spelling thing in, then I wouldn't update the version. If I am fixing a bug or something that in any way changes the function, it could be really minor, then I'm going to update my version. Like there's no reason not to just, keep updating the version. You can look up something called semantic versioning, and that it uses 3 numbers, and the numbers mean things, and then having to do with like how the backwards compatibility works. I don't do that. I just use 2 numbers. So I use like a major number and then a minor, and then I'm updating the minor kind of all the time. Like that might get into the hundreds. And then the first number is going to be a really major update, like something really fundamental. So I wouldn't normally update that. For the releases, so if you go on here and you look at, so let's go, to here. Okay. So this one you're going to see has a lot of releases. And This one you'll see, this is a project, a package that is, it's for the public, it's the biggest package that I have. And in this one, I'm using this formal semantic versioning where I have major, minor, and I think that's revision. So this one here is going to be just really kind of minor things. And then 10 is going to be a more major update, and then this one here would be something very substantial. The first one doesn't change very often. You can also see like this nice thing with the versioning when you're doing this on GitHub, you can put a lot of comments and you can say, you know, exactly what was happening in these major releases. Really helpful for keeping track of a coding project. Okay, so let's go back to here and see if this is now going to work. Oh, my goodness. Oh. Okay, I'm going to exit and get back on here. Okay, if you have any other questions, please throw those on there while I debug on the fly. Go ahead and give that, for the person who was asking about the links, go ahead and give that a try. Works for you. Wow. Oh, that is really unfortunate. Okay, I have succeeded in breaking things. Let me keep going through the information though. Let's go back here. I just won't be able to demo things. Okay. So, let's see, namespace. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the namespace part. So remember I showed you that our Roxygen was complaining that our namespace, that it wouldn't wipe out our namespace. And so all you need to do is just delete that namespace file, and then the Roxygen is going to create it for you. And the way that it's creating it is that you are using this little tag here at export. That's saying to add it to your namespace. I often don't use our Roxygen to make my namespace, actually. If you go on to Tools and to Project Options, Build Tools, and then you go to Configure, you see you can uncheck the namespace. I personally never have that namespace checked. And the reason is that I don't want to go digging through all my functions. You know, I might have 50 functions. I went digging through them, trying to find this little export tag to figure out which one I'm exporting, And then if I change my mind, which ones I want to have exporting, I don't like to have to go over to the R file and put those there. So that's just a personal preference. A lot of people use our Roxygen also to make their namespace. The other thing is, the reason that I don't always use it is that last week we were talking about having this line on the top of your namespace, and that line is saying just export all my functions for me. So if you don't want to be caring about having some hidden and some not, you just put that at the top of your namespace and just leave it there. So that's what I'll do if I want to have everything exported. And the reason I do that is that if I'm writing the our Roxygen file, if I happen to forget this little tag, then hello would not be available. And I'll often forget to go and look to see if I had that tag there. So I just don't use our Roxygen to make my namespace. But again, it's just your preference. When you update your documentation, super easy, unless you've just trashed your package installations. Normally, you would just edit this and you click install and restart, and it'll go ahead and create everything. There is also a this you could use. I'm not 100% positive. I never use that. I just use install and restart. Let's see. Yeah. No. Okay. So I want to show you a couple more customization, or one other customization thing that's a little hard to figure out in our Roxygen, and that's how to include references. So you could just write in references at the bottom of your functions, but there also is a feature where you can use the RD package and use a BibTeX a file within your package. And I've added the instructions here to show you how to do that. I would demo that, except I just broke things. What is the difference between install and restart and clean and rebuild? They're pretty similar. The clean and rebuild is not going to load your package, I believe. You can try them and see what happens. It used to be that the default button there was clean and rebuild, and then a few iterations of RStudio, they changed it to this install and restart. So I think this is just rebuilding it, but it's not like restarting your R session. I believe that's what's going on, but they're doing very similar things. So, so this is how, like, if you have, keep your references in a BibTeX file and you want to put those in your documentation, you just can put this references bib in a folder in your package. It's all described right here, and then in your RD file, you use insert ref. So that's a really nice feature if you have to put a lot of references in a manual that you're building. All right. So I'm going to stop there with our Roxygen, and I'm going to show you something different. But I'll pause for a moment and see if there are any questions about our Roxygen or anything that I've covered. All right. Okay. Since there's not, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about 3 different coding related things. Okay, so the first one is styling your code. To make your code easier to read for other people, it's good to adopt a standardized style for your code, rather than make up your own personalized style, which is just going to make it hard for other people. I use the tidyverse style more or less. I don't use it like every single feature of it. You can go follow the link and you can see the style guide. You can also see that, oh, it's got all this syntax stuff, all this information. And like I said, I kind of follow it sort of more or less, but this is a lot of information. I don't really want to spend my time learning and all of that. And I definitely don't want to spend my memory trying to memorize all those rules. So instead, what I do is I use the styler package. And let's see if I have that installed here. Add-ins, add-ins. Oh, darn it. I was working on a different computer. I didn't put it on this one. Okay, that's okay. Let me show you what it basically does here. So what the styler package does is it will install a little tool for RStudio, and then you can style like an entire folder. You can style all your RMD files just in one sort of fell swoop. And I find that so much easier than trying to remember all the little styles and make sure I don't make any mistakes. Okay. I really broke things. If it worked well, and I'm missing some package here, what's going to show up is you would then show up here under add-ins, and then when you click that, it will then style. You can do your the whole whatever file is open or a series of files. So I use that a lot. It works really great. There may be other styler packages out there, but this one is one that people use a lot. Another thing that you might try if you're doing putting your code into functions is to try adding Byte compile to your description file. It's amazing how much faster this can make your functions run. And this is another nice feature of putting your code into a package, is that you can do Byte compile. So like I've gotten, you know, I don't know how much, maybe 30% increase in speed just by adding Byte compile to my description file. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to cover is go here. I have this under tutorials. Let's see here. No, I didn't. I wanted to talk a little bit about Ggplot too. And so, as you probably know, Ggplot is a plotting R package, and I didn't use it for a long time because it's a bit of a hassle. And let me see if I can pull up a tutorial here. So here's just an example of somebody's tutorial. And the thing is that Ggplot, and just sort of the standard ways that you would use it, you're going to use a data frame that looks like this. So in this case, you might be plotting, say, baby weight against mother weight, and you're going to show it for smokers and non-smokers. And Ggplot's going to make it really easy to make like multiple lines or multiple bar plots on a single plot. For me, it was unusual that I would have data that looks like that in a data frame. What I often was doing was I would create one line through one function, maybe a simulation, and then I would need to add a different line from something totally different. And I wouldn't have my data in a single data frame like this with the different lines given a different column and have like, line 1, line 2, that sort of thing. So I'd have to do this extra step of creating the data frame. And so I resisted using Ggplot for a long time because it just didn't seem to suit the kind of things that I wanted to do. But then about 2 years ago, I started using it a lot more. And it's actually really powerful in that you can easily add on to the plots. You don't have to be working in that data frame structure. You can create a plot, and then you can add a new element to that plot. So if I say, P is, this is going to be my Ggplot plot element, and this is, I'm going to have, there's a whole bunch of information here, plus, G on points, I'm doing a point plot, like that. It's going to look something like that, but this P object is this object, and then you can add other things, and Ggplot is going to scale your axes for you. You can add, your titles differently, and it's really easy to sort of build on your plots. And so that's why I've started switching to Ggplot, because my functions can return this plot object, and then I can combine plot objects very easily, much more easily than in the base plotting functions. So if you haven't dived into Ggplot, I found it very painful to learn. But I will say that that has also made me faster in my graphics. So with Ggplot. All right, we're at 10:59. I am going to stop here. Thank you to all of you who have participated. It's been really fun for me to go over this. Sorry I ran into a little snafu there when I tried to install my sardine forecast. But at least you saw the beginning, how it's really easy to create documentation for your functions using our Roxygen. All right. Any other questions? I'll wait on the line for about 5 minutes or so for your questions. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Mary. Oh, I was going to say, if you have a wish, if you want me to do another one on a particular topic, I'm happy to do that. Oh, you want Ggplot? Oh. Oh, Bayesian statistics. Oh, that would have to be Eric. Ggplot. I have to get a real Ggplot person, a lover, to do Ggplot. Oh, Eric Ward. Or you, Eric. It could be you too, Eric Buell. Ooh, I'm going to have to write notes on this. Tidyverse verbs. Not it. We could have Eric Ward teach us all how to use Stan. I need that workshop. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Collaboration with GitHub, GitLab. Yes. Yeah, I didn't cover like how to like do a pulling and pushing. I could definitely go into more detail with that and show you how to do that. Okay, yeah, keep these coming. I'll write these notes down and see if I can do one of those. Talk with Eric, see if he'd do a thing for us. Tidyverse, yeah. So, Tidyverse. Tidyverse is definitely something to be aware of, and I try to keep up with the directions they're going. They have a lot of great ideas, and however, I will say that I don't just sort of go sort of all in the Tidyverse world. There's a few things there. One is that I find the things they do and the way they set up data is often not the way that I am working with data. So like that example with Ggplot, always having these data frames, which would be like, and now in the Tidyverse, they always want your data in a particular format. And I often don't have data in that format. And the reason is that I'm trying to like plot things from a whole bunch of different things. And I need to sort of mold them together. So I find the Tidyverse, that sort of focus on one type of data a little bit restricted. The other thing is that the Tidyverse world really loves piping, and I don't like piping. The reason is that piping is really slow, and I need fast because I'm doing simulations a lot. So I avoid piping. I also don't particularly find that it makes your code easier to read, and I teach to beginners often, and the whole piping thing just like confuses them. And oh my gosh, so if you're writing packages and you have pipes, oh, it's just misery. It's real misery. This sort of love of piping in the Tidyverse world, that's not really helpful to me. And then another reason is like the whole deployer thing. I use deployer a lot. I definitely like it, but the Tidyverse world, they seem to love it to the exclusion of other things. And I often find that it's just easier to just write a little for loop to do something rather than trying to spend a whole bunch of time learning their functions for sort of remunging data. But I do try to keep updated with what's happening in Tidyverse. Switching to another text editor. Do I exclusively use RStudio? Yes, I exclusively use RStudio. I find I am much faster just learning one platform that does everything I need to do. It's a bit of a hassle on my laptop with those sort of 4 panels, but I'm normally on a much bigger screen. Like my desktop at home is huge, so I don't have any trouble there. I even do my LaTeX editing in RStudio now. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay. Great. So I'll say one more thing about Tidyverse. So personally, I would so Tidyverse is huge. The thing that I would recommend learning is Ggplot too. That would be the way to start. And just by getting more used to Ggplot 2, you're going to naturally be more adept at data formats that are used in the Tidyverse, because those are also used in Ggplot 2. All righty. Any other questions? Any other ideas on topics you would love to see? Although I've got a bunch of great ones here. I'll write those down. All right. Super. Okay, Stuart, if you give me a moment, I want to write down the ideas that people have.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and I'm going to just leave the WebEx open for you.
Oh, perfect, perfect. It'll just take me a minute. Okay. Thank you.
Just let me